Hi there, and welcome to TailTwisting, a Lions University course brought to you by the USA-Canada Lions Leadership Forum. My name is Past District Governor Wendy Kane, even though the name you'll see on the bottom of the screen says Mark Miller. Rest assured, it is Wendy Kane. I would like to welcome you here with us this evening and remind you that this webinar is being recorded for those who cannot participate live, or if you would like to re-listen to this material at a later time. There are a couple of different ways that you can engage with us on this particular webinar. This will most commonly be by asking questions or responding to questions using the questions pane. So you can type comments or questions there, and I will share those during the course of the evening. You can also raise your hand, and we'll call on you at that point in time to share. We'll unmute you so that you can share information that way. TailTwisting is course number 127 of the bachelor's program and is an elective for our Lions University's bachelor program that's really designed to help Lions lead at the club level. The bachelor's program involves the completion of 10 required courses, as you can see to the left, and at least 5 of the elective courses. As a reminder, lionsuniversity.org is where we have all of our curriculum for both the bachelor's and master's programs, as well as down the road our doctorate program. Each course has its own course page where we have information about the objectives for the course, where you can register for courses. After this is over, we'll add the video recording there. You'll also be able to download the course handout after this evening that has a lot of the material that Past District Governor Dave is going to share with us. So a lot of great ideas and things that he has in this presentation will be on the handout. So I encourage you to listen along, but you don't need to scurry to write down ideas. I would encourage you to jot down ideas that you hear from others that are shared, because that wouldn't necessarily be incorporated into the handout. But all of the information that we'll be going over this evening during the webinar will be in the handout. It will also have other materials and the all-important link to the course quiz when we're done. It is now my pleasure to introduce you to Past District Governor Dave Duran. I just love this picture of Lion Dave. It's a pleasure for us to have both Past District Governor Dave and his wife, Past District Governor Nancy, as part of the faculty here with us at Lions University. Past District Governor Dave has a lot of experience presenting at conventions and leadership forums and LCI institutes, and so just proud to have him here with us this evening and excited for him to be able to share tail twisting with our Lions. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you, Wendy. During my travels in my previous life, when I was working for a living, I had the opportunity to visit Lions clubs all over Canada, US, and even some in England. That gave me the opportunity to see a lot of excellent tail twisters. I'm going to share some of the ideas that, of course, I stole from them, and I'll share them with you tonight. A friend of mine is the Multiple District A historian, and he tells me the position of tail twister in the Lions Club is almost as old as Lionism itself. There are apparently several references to it in the early 1920s. At that time, it was referred to as the pep lion, because the lion's job was to add some pep to the meetings. Or Spritzrichter. In German, Spritz is a leader, and Ringten means to twist or squeeze. Apparently, Melvin Jones told the story that one day when they were discussing methods to liven up meetings, One of the lions said when a cow refused to go through the gate, someone would grab it by the tail, give it a twist, and then they decided that the tail twister would be a good name for this position. However, interestingly, the board at that time thought it was not a dignified name, and they issued an edict against the use of the term tail twister. A few years later, in 1929, then International President Ray Riley got up at a meeting and told the lions that they were taking themselves far too seriously and clubs should have tail twisters. And the term has been commonly used since that time. So what we're going to cover tonight are the duties of a tail twister. We're going to look at some activity suggestions. We're going to review some of the things that should be avoided when you're beating the tail twister. And then we'll look at some questions and answers and general comments regarding tail twisting. I personally think the position of tail twister is the best one to have in the club. And frankly, as we'll see tonight, just as important as the position of president or secretary. Although if you ask them, they probably wouldn't agree. So what are the duties of the tail twister? Well, to instill enthusiasm and good fellowship at meetings, to promote harmony, to reward extra effort, to impose and collect fines, and possibly to serve on the board of directors. We'll look at each of these duties in detail in the following slides. The first we'll look at is enthusiasm and fellowship at meetings. You're probably aware that one of the main reasons we lose members is long, boring meetings. It is, of course, up to the president and your club speaker chair to make sure the meetings are productive and interesting. However, the tail twister is also responsible to make sure that every meeting is interesting and fun. We apparently also lose members because of lack of involvement and lack of recognition. And again, you will see the tail twister can provide solutions to these problems. I will provide several suggested activities for adding enthusiasm and good fellowship at meetings, and I know that you will be able to come up with even more activities for your club. The next duty we're going to look at is promoting harmony. Other than in the musical sense, harmony is defined as agreement, concord, to fit together. Agreement, concord, to fit together. In other words, the job of the tail twister is to make sure all lions feel they're part of the club. We can promote harmony at club meetings by several methods. Have a mystery greeter. Someone is appointed as the mystery greeter, and after the meeting starts or at the end of the meeting, the mystery greeter announces who did not shake his or her hand. And of course, anyone that didn't shake the hand is fined by the tail twister. Once every couple of years, as a variation on the mystery greeter, appoint 2 of them in one evening. It is very funny when they each, of course, will name each other for not shaking each other's hand, and you get a chance to double your income. A point of irritation in some clubs are lions who always sit together. There are several ways that we can overcome this problem. Very simply, find the members who always sit together. I remember going on a visitation to a club and went to sit in a chair and was told by the members at that table that that chair belonged to Lion Nick. So I went and sat at another table. Lion Nick never did show up that night, but that group always set together, so the tail twister can find them. There's another way that works well to overcome this problem, and that is to use a deck of cards and have the lions select a card as they come into the room. And then on the table you have signs, and all the aces will sit together at this table, all the twos at this table, and so on. Or another simple way of doing this is to have numbers at each place and have lions draw a number on the way in, and that's where they're going to sit for that night. Remember, however, that every one of us has special friends in our club, and we do want to sit with them. On the other hand, it's important to sit with and get to know the other lions of our club. As a tail twister, try to strike a balance with sitting with old friends or sitting with a new spot. And I have found that once every third or fourth meeting, it's a good idea to mix up the seating. All of us know that answering a cell phone or texting or talking during a meeting exhibits poor manners. But yet, unfortunately, there are lots of lions who do it. You can fine them, of course, but don't make a big deal about their being rude. Just simply fine them for interrupting the meeting. They'll get the message. Late arrivals can be a problem, and sometimes there are legitimate reasons for late arrivals. Again, make light of it. Simply make the comment, "Gee, good to see you. I wonder who we're going to talk about now. Well, I guess I'll have to fine you then for being late now that we can't talk about you anymore." And perhaps even that small fine will make them think twice if it was possible that they could have been there on time. Recall the definition of harmony: to fit together, to make sure all lions, especially new lions, feel part of the club. What a great opportunity the tail twister has to get new lions involved. Every so often, deputize a new lion for the evening and have him or her assist you with running an activity, collecting fines, or whatever. And this would also work with someone that is very shy in the club. Get them, deputize them, and have them work with you. Remember, our job is to promote harmony, and that means to get everyone involved. Another opportunity for a tail twister is to reward extra effort. We have a very unique opportunity to reward extra effort done by our club members. I'll give you a personal example. Our club was doing a community barbecue. The lady came to the cash and asked how much the hot dogs were. She was obviously not well off, opened her purse, and started counting out change. A dime, a quarter, another dime. She was not sure if she had enough. One of our lions, Lion Wendy, took her purse, took out $4, put it in the till, and told the lady to put her money away as the hot dog and drink were her treat. I was impressed. So as tail twister, at our next meeting, I gave Wendy a fine exemption card for the next 6 meetings as a reward for being so kind. Now, a fine exemption card are easy to print off on your computer, and there's an example of one shown on the screen. And this works well. You might want to put on their non-transferable, but they tend to work well. A variation on the fine exemption card, which can create a lot of fun, is a pass it on card. This card allows the lion getting a fine to pass the fine on to any other lion in the room. Yeah, that even includes the tail twister, so you don't want to give out too many of those. Also keep an eye on local papers for any lion in your club that's been recognized in the paper. You have the opportunity to share this information with your fellow Lions. The tail twister has the opportunity to recognize extra effort or a job well done by club members. Take advantage of this opportunity and recognize them wherever possible. If someone in your club worked a double shift at a barbecue, why not at the next meeting give them a chef's hat or something like that that you can purchase at a dollar store? Now the next duty that's on the screen is impose and collect fines. At some of the clubs I have been to, and probably some you have been to, the tail twister simply walks around with the fine box and collects money, in some cases without even giving a reason for the fine. That is not adding enthusiasm or fellowship to the meeting. Remember, the job of the tail twister is not to collect money. It's a bonus if some funds are added to the administration account at the end of the meeting. But contrary to popular belief in some clubs, collecting money is not the main purpose of a tail twister. Look at the slide. Enthusiasm, fellowship, harmony, reward extra effort, those are much more important than imposing and collecting fines. Your club may have a maximum fine amount. Know what it is. I should add that I don't impose the amount of a fine. I leave it up to the Lion to put in what they feel the infraction is worth. If questioned how much they should pay, I usually reply from 5 cents to $1, whatever you feel that infraction is worth. And sometimes, if they feel really guilty, they'd be known to put in a couple of dollars.
Lion Dave? Lion Becky asked a question a couple minutes ago that fits in well here, and she was talking about if club members are couples, but in particular, what to do if members do not bring money. I mean, so many of us don't carry much cash these days, and so any suggestions on how to handle that?
I simply just say, okay, I'll take an IOU, and that sort of ends it. And I don't collect the on the IOU. But yes, a lot of people don't carry money, and but once they get used to it, they'll carry some change to meetings, just knowing that they're going to have to pay and not be embarrassed at the next again.
It may depend on how active the tail twister has been in prior meetings to be thinking about that, or and you're right, an IOU that's not collected is also, or you leave it up to their conscience if they're feeling guilty at another meeting down the road. So
that's right. The last duty that the tail twister may have is serving on the board of directors for the club. It's up to your club if the tail twister is a voting member of your board of directors. In our district, I would say about half the clubs, the tail twister is a member of the board, and in the other half, they're not. Quite often it is the tail twister and the lion tamer that are part of the board. But I'd say in half of our clubs, it's not part of the job description. The position of tail twister may be appointed or may be an elected position. He or she may do the job for 1 year or several years. Again, it's up to each club to decide. Now that's a general overview of the tail twister duties. Let's get into some of the specifics of some of the activities that we can do as a tail twister. We all know a good club president must plan the agenda before the meeting. And it also holds true that an effective tail twister must plan activities before the meeting. A tail twister should not just show up at a meeting and then decide what to do. Plan ahead. The list of things that you can do is only limited by your imagination. Some of the items you may wish to obtain before the meetings are shown on the screen. And it's not necessary to copy these down because, as Wendy mentioned, they are listed in the handout. Let's discuss each of these items in more detail. The first item is the calendar. Make up a calendar showing every club meeting date for the year. On that calendar, note the various special days during the year. Valentine's, April Fool's Day, St. Patrick's Day, Halloween, Easter, Christmas, and so on. Perhaps use a theme for the club meeting evening based on that particular holiday. For example, in March, St. Patrick's Day close by, have everyone address each other with an Irish name. So if you're speaking to the president, it would have to be "O President," or "O John," or "O Mary," or "O Wendy," etc. If they forget to put the O in front, then of course they're fined. If, on the other hand, they're wearing green, you could exempt them from fines. At Valentine's, exempt them if they're not wearing red. At Easter, purchase and put out small eggs at each place setting. Don't say anything about it, but then fine any member who eats the egg before the meeting is over. Obtain the dates for the district officer visits from your secretary or president and add these dates to your calendar. Also on the calendar, list all the birthdays and anniversaries of your club membership. Now, you do not necessarily have to find the member who's having a birthday or an anniversary. Why not take a different approach? Give them a birthday gift. You can go to the dollar store and get a very reasonable gift for $1. Or give them a fine exemption card for the next meeting. Or have the person next to them pay the fine. Another twist on birthdays is to tell the Lion that in order to save the fine, they have to name one famous person, other than themselves, who has a birthday on that same day. And you, the tail twister, can get the list of famous people's birthdays from the internet. Your club secretary can obtain a list of the date of joining for the members of the club. If a club member is celebrating a special anniversary, such as 5 years, 10, or 20 years, then I think we should celebrate the fact. You could celebrate it by fining them or exempting them from a fine that evening. But recognize it. Tail twister activities can run from a few minutes to several minutes in length. I suggest you plan 2 activities for the evening, one long, one short, and check with the president to see how much time you will have, and then select the appropriate activity. As you can see, the calendar is a very, very valuable tool for a tail twister. The next activity that can provide fun at meetings is a quiz. Make up a personal info sheet at the beginning of the year and have each Lion complete it. The questions such as, where did you go to school? What's your favorite hobby? What's the most exciting thing or embarrassing thing that happened to you? If given a second chance, what career path would you take? And so on. Then make up a quiz based on this information. For example, the quiz could be, who graduated from school and taught kindergarten for 4 years? Or who was a baker before they retired? Who wishes they could have been a pro golfer? So there's lots of quizzes that you can make up about club members. Another area that you can make up quizzes is on local things. For example, what is the date on our town hall? What is the date on our courthouse? Or if I'm driving north on Highway XYZ and drive through such and such a town, what's the next town that I would come to? Or who's our deputy mayor? Again, it's an endless list of quiz questions that you can come up with about your local community. Questions on Lionism, of course, are a good way to get orientation done at the club level. Questions such as, when did LCIF form? What's our club's charter date? When did our district form? Where is this year's international convention? And again, the list can go on and on. The Lion magazine, the LCI website, and the governor's newsletter are good places to pick up information to use on a quiz on lionism. There are hundreds of websites out there with general brain teasers, questions, lots of the most common, and so on. You can make up quizzes on virtually any topic. They are fun and informative. Even Trivial Pursuit cards are a good quiz source. But do not have a quiz at every meeting. Try to vary your activities. Just have them every 2 or 3 or 4 meetings so that there is some variation. A quiz that I made up that was popular was an Identify the Logos quiz. I made up sheets with 3 logos on them. I used logos from automobile companies, airlines, hotels, food, industry, and so on. If a lion paid $1, they had to correctly identify all 3 logos to get their money back. If they paid $2, they only had to identify 2 out of 3 logos to get their money back. It was much harder than I thought it would be. The sheet was folded over so only the top half showed, and each sheet was numbered. So you see the one on the screen was sheet number 2, and they are automobile logos. The lion had to pick the number. I gave them the sheet and they had to guess the logos. It was a lot of fun, interesting, and frankly a good money maker. Word puzzles are lots of fun and not time consuming. And again, these are readily available on the internet. Just type Brainteasers in on the search engine and you will get an unending supply of puzzles to use. The 2 shown on the slide, I'll give you a minute to try to decide what they are, because if you could tell me what they are, I won't fine you. The top one, of course, is Man Overboard, and the bottom one is Wet Behind the Ears. Genealogy is a hobby of mine, and as many of you know, a last name is from medieval times when it became necessary to try to identify people. Quite often the surname was based on the family, so Thompson is Tom's son, or Andrew MacDonald would be Andrew, son of Donald. Or the surname may be based on the occupation of the family, Baker, Mason, or the location where the family lived, Ford and Hill are examples. The meaning of last names can again be easily found on the internet. Look up the meanings of their lion surnames, and if a lion knows the meaning of their surname, they don't have to pay. Again, this is both informative and a lot of fun. There's a lot that can be done with a couple of decks of cards. As mentioned before, if you have trouble with lions always sitting in the same place, have them draw a card and then all the aces sit together, etc. Or have the lions buy a card and then from the second deck draw the winners. Or have the lions pay 10 times the face card of the face card value that they draw. For example, if a 6 is drawn, they would owe 60 cents. You can have it so if a jack is drawn, the next male on the right pays, and if a queen is drawn, the next female on the right pays, and if a king is drawn, then the president has to pay. If a joker is drawn, then the tail twister pays, so I suggest you might want to remove all but one of the jokers from the deck. Another activity with cards is to sell 2 cards to each lion and then have a prize for the highest and a prize for the lowest value of the 2 cards. Dice can also be used in several ways. As with the previous game using cards, have each lion roll 4 dice, after they of course pay for the privilege, and write down their total score. At the end, the lion with the lowest score and the lion with the highest score both win. Or give lions 2 dice and they pay for the chance to get 2 of a kind on one shake. If they do, they win their entry fee back. Dice will also be needed for the race board game, which we will talk about shortly. I'm not suggesting that you buy a projector, but I am sure there's probably someone in your club that owns one or has access to a projector. And if so, it could be used in a lot of ways. Get baby school or wedding pictures from as many as your Lions family as possible. Scan them and show them on the screen with numbers. The Lions each pay $1 to play, and they get a page with numbers. They write the number and the name of the person that they think are in the pictures. You could also use the pictures of LCI past presidents, past international directors, and have a contest to see who can name most of them. Another activity is to take headshots of all your lions and then simply show the eyes. This was very popular at our club. Again, they paid and they got a sheet with numbers and they had to write down the name if they could recognize the eyes. That happens to be my wife Nancy, so that was an easy one. Lastly, obtain pictures of some of the Lions camps, projects, Lions clubhouses in your area. And again, have a contest to see who can correctly name the most locations. Fun and informative. There are an endless number of things you can do with a projector and screen, even including showing some of the videos from LCI, at which time, of course, you would sell popcorn. The race board game has been quite popular. You make up a board with squares and numbers on it as shown. Just a sheet of Bristol board or the back sheet of a flip chart or a piece of large cardboard box will do. Have 6 small objects, small stuffed or plastic toys from the dollar store as the race pieces. Have each lion pay $1 and pick a number from 1 to 6, put that number on a post-it note and put it in front of that lion. Have 4 lions each roll a die and call out the number they get. Move the corresponding object on the board the correct number of squares based on the numbers that come up on the dice. For example, if 2 3s, 1 5, and 1 6 are rolled, then move the object 2 squares, 3 object 2 squares, and the 5 and 6 object 1 square each. When the object gets to the end, that number is the winner. Any lion with that number on the post-it note gets a prize or gets their entry fee back. In the example that you see on the screen, I called it the Blockhead Race. I put headshots of our club members on wooden blocks. If the lion was present and their face appeared on the block that won the race, then they also received a prize. One word of caution with this game: do not use small cars or any object with wheels, because there was so much excitement that the banging and bouncing in the room actually caused the items with wheels to move on their own.
Kind of sounds like that was a
There are lots
popular
of
game.
fun games that I call toss. Oops, sorry.
I'm sorry, Lion Dave, but I wasn't expecting you to talk about how exciting and competitive your race game board got in your club meeting. So definitely a neat idea for sharing.
Yeah, it was popular. I've used it a couple of times in the last 2 years. There are lots of toss games that you can use. A coin toss into a hat, a beanbag toss. How about making a paper airplane and try to throw it into a basket? Or buy a Nerf ball and basketball hoop from a toy store. There are lots of toss games and they all work very well. Guess the Jar has several variations. Have 10 or so small clear glass jars with lids and numbers on them. Fill each with a dry white material that you find in the house. salt, flour, baking soda, baking powder, sugar, icing sugar, dishwashing powder. Pass these around and have your lions guess what is in the jar. Of course, they can't take off the lid. Sell them the score sheet and rent them the pen if necessary, and they write down the jar number and their guess of the contents. And of course, the winner's the one with the most correct answers. By the way, fine anyone who names the item out loud as they are playing. A variation of that is to put cotton balls in each jar and add a few drops of various household liquids. WD-40, turpentine, rum, shoe polish, paint, whiskey, vinegar, witch hazel, vanilla. This time they can remove the lid, smell the contents, and write down the jar number and their guess of the contents. You perhaps have seen filling the jar with candies, peanuts, soda or beer can tabs, etc. Count them as you put them in, and then have a contest for the lions to guess how many are in that jar. Charge them to be in the contest, and the lion that guesses closest without going over usually wins the jar's contents. Another one which has been around for years but always works once in a while is removing the silverware from the table, and then you get the chance to sell it back to the lions when the meal is served. One I like is to have a word of the month. It's listed in the club bulletin or on the club website, and anyone who uses that particular word during the meeting is fined. A variation of that is to have a uniform of the day. For a particular meeting, you announce that to be exempt from fines, you must wear blue, you must wear a hat, you must have mismatched socks, and anyone not conforming is, of course, fined. One that creates a lot of fun is set the rule at the beginning of the evening that there will be no first names, and anyone using a first name is, of course, fined. Left, right, and over is a fun activity. Have a small, wrapped, unbreakable gift. Make up a story about a club activity. As you read the story, when the word left is used, the gift is passed to the left. When the word right is used, the gift is passed to the right. And when over is mentioned, the gift is passed over to the next table. At the end of the story, the person holding the gift gets to keep it. You get to fine any member who misses a clue. Since you are reading the story in this activity, this is a good opportunity to have one of the new lions or a shy person in your club help you, because they could do the finding of the members who miss the clue. Now it's your turn to do some work. What tail twister activities have you seen that you would like to share with us tonight? I am sure you've all experienced some pretty neat activities by tail twisters, and I'd like us to share them now, please. So either type them in the box or raise your hand and Wendy will unmute you.
Those are some pretty creative ideas, Dave. We're waiting for hands to be raised, or if you'd like to type examples in the questions pane. Lion Leanne shares, we did a buck a brag where you pay $1 to brag about anything, for example, a birthday or anniversary, the birth of a baby in your family, and things like that. So thank you, Leanne. Lion Dawn shared a pay to say, similarly, pay to offer good news about yourself or another lion. So that's a neat idea. Oh, ideas are rolling in now. Lion Angie shared doing a 50-50 in the club. Uh-oh. It's scrolling so quickly I can't catch up. Doing a 50-50, and while they've been raising a lot with that, everyone places $1 in the hat with their name on it and pick one out. I think I'm overlapping a couple of ideas that folks have shared. I think I overlapped Lion Angie and Lion Lisa's. Okay, let's see. Lion Becky shared a crazy hat day, and in April, a brown bag gift. Lion Donna shares their tail twister does an unbirthday. That way everyone should have a fine, except for maybe whoever's birthday it is. You kind of get the reverse of that. Let's see. Lion Chris shared every member's name is in a hat. If your name is drawn and you are present, you win half of the pot. I think this is a 50-50 again. Or, oh, no, it costs 25 cents when you come to a meeting. So you pony up on the front end, and then if your name is drawn, you win. Lion Jackie shares that a man was fine because his wife had a baby that week. So another celebration there. Lion Romeo shared placing all cell phones on the table, and if it rings, you pay $1. That would be a good one to kind of penalize if people use their phone during a meeting too. Let's see. Lion Frank shares once a year we have an empty plate dinner where you pay for the meal but get an empty plate. Let's see. Lion Jim shares passing on a paper clip as you shake hands, and whoever gets stuck with the paper clip at the end pays a fine. Some good ideas. I'll tell you what I'll do also. We'll read a few more of these as they get typed in, but I'm going to put a plug in here for our discussion forum and share a lot of Lion Dave's ideas as well as the ideas that you're sharing here with us in the discussion forum. So
that would be great.
That will be a great resource for you to either as your club tail twister or to send your club tail twister to. A couple more ideas here. Lion Brenda says left, right, and over sounds like fun. Our club does not currently charge fines. This sounds like a creative way to add club finances. Her club does a 50-50 at the social meetings, and I think clubs do find that the tail twister is one way to help increase the administrative account. Though certainly you have to be a little bit judicious in the fining to not get too carried away. Lion Gary shares their club does a dirty Santa at Christmas, and the tail twister is involved in that. I'm not sure how's this one sound to you, Dave? Lion Jackie shared that if you get fined, you must keep the live duck for the week. Lion Jackie, I'd like more information about that one.
That's a little awkward, but
a live duck.
Okay, let's put these on the forum then, Wendy, because we are running short of time.
Thank you all for sharing those ideas. And
that is excellent.
You can look for those in the discussion forum.
That is excellent. Thank you very much for all your input. Maybe we should make this a 2-hour session. Prizes are an important part of the Tail Twisters program. Quite often, I put the prizes in paper bags and just numbered the bags, and the winners, whatever activity, then have to select the number. I must confess that sometimes I brag that I have obtained corporate sponsors, and some bags are going to contain really valuable items or gift certificates for valuable items. There could be stakes, and of course in the bag are wooden stakes. There could be a bottle of rum, and that of course is a miniature bottle. How about a laptop computer, and that's a calculator from the dollar store. Or a new car, which of course is miniature. Or the one I won was an electrical generator, which turned out to be a battery. A washer and dryer, of course, is a dishcloth and tea towel. You can buy prizes from a dollar store or look around at garage sales, and you can keep within a very reasonable budget. The fine exemption or pass it on cards that I mentioned earlier can be easily printed on a computer. Keep an eye open for any jacket, notebook, sweater left at a meeting, and then present it to the Lion at the next meeting with a fine, of course. There are lots of items that are suitable from the LCI catalog for prizes. Carry the prizes with you to each meeting because you never know when you're going to need them. So we've looked at a lot of things we can do. Now I want to just take a couple of minutes and discuss some things that I want you to avoid. The position of tail twister is not new. For years, the tail twister would fine you if you did not have a lion's pin on, or if your name tag was crooked, or if you didn't know the middle name of the lion next to you, or if you didn't address someone as lion so-and-so. Some of these are okay, but they can become quite repetitive if they're used at every meeting. We have to have the opportunity to instill enthusiasm and fellowship at our meetings, and we have lots of ways of doing it, as we have just discussed. I caution you, though, there are some tail twister activities that were done in the past that must not be done now. Any activity that would be considered dangerous. For example, holding someone upside down and shaking the money out of their pockets. Avoiding the activity that would be considered embarrassing. Making someone wear a bib, eat baby food, drink from a baby bottle, especially a new lion in your club. No one in your club should ever have to wear a dunce cap, sit in a corner. Never make personal comments about a person. Never make fun of a person's accent, their appearance, and never embarrass someone by asking them to spell difficult words, etc. Although it used to be very commonly done, tie cutting is out unless you've prearranged it. Ties are very expensive. I regret to say that in my 37 years of lionism, I have seen all the above done at club meetings, and I feel there is no place for any of them in today's Lions Club. Remember, your main duty is to promote enthusiasm and good fellowship. So, avoid any arguments. If someone does not want to pay or cannot afford to pay, then just walk away and go to the next person. Obviously, you must avoid any religious, ethnic, or political comments or activities, and definitely avoid any jokes in poor taste. If you wouldn't tell it to your grandmother, don't tell it at the club meeting. I mentioned it before, but never, never, never walk around the room with a fine box and have the lions donate to the box. That is simply a money grab. It penalizes those who are attending and does not add fun to the meeting. It's okay in church to pass a collection plate, but please not at a Lions meeting. Something else to think about. How would you feel if you went to a Lions meeting and it was the same speaker that you had at the last meeting? Or the same video was presented that was presented at the last club meeting? You would think, what's going on? Well, the same applies to the tail twister activities. Even if something was wildly successful, do not repeat it during that Lions year. As mentioned before, set up your calendar, have different activity for each meeting. We have discussed a lot of activities tonight, so you're certainly not going to have to repeat any activity during the same Lions year. Now, some questions and answers. I want you to think about it before you see the answer. Can the tail twister be fined? Well, the tail twister can only be fined by a unanimous vote of all lions present. And since the tail twister is a lion, that probably isn't going to happen. When is the best time to do a tail twisting activity? It's really not up to you. Check with the president. Find out when they want you to do the activity. After all, it is their meeting. How long should the activity take? 2 to 10 minutes. Again, check with the president before the meeting. Can guests be fined? If they're non-lions, you really shouldn't. If they're lions, yeah, what our club does is someone makes a motion that we have all the lion guests become honorary members of our club for that evening. And that, of course, allows them to become fined. It did backfire once, though, because one of our honorary lions made some motions that we didn't really want. But that's another story. Can a tail twister interrupt a speech? No, not if it's a non-lion. They're just going to think that you're rude. And use discretion at all other times. In closing, just some general comments. Know the maximum fine for your club. Be careful not to fine the same members at each meeting. There are some people that you really enjoy fighting because they always give you such a great time and lots of laughter, but don't fine the same members at each meeting. On the other hand, don't ignore any of the members either. Make sure that every 2 or 3 meetings, virtually everybody has been approached by the tail twister. Remember to ask a new lion or a shy lion to assist you once in a while. Do activities that you're comfortable with and that you think will work in your club. I'm not sure about a live duck in my club. So what we have done in the last, my goodness, it's gone quickly, hour, is we've looked at the duties of a tail twister. We've gone through a lot of activity suggestions. We've looked at things to avoid. We've looked at some questions and answers and my general comments. Are there any questions or comments at the very end here? If not, I'll send it back to Wendy.
Lion Dave, we have one other comment. Lion Becky shared that the district governor can find the tail twister as well. I'm not sure if that's a question or a statement, but what is your experience during a district governor's meeting or visit with respect to tail twisters?
Yeah, certainly not in our policy manual.
So they can't override the must be voted on by all members.
That's right, yeah. Must be voted on by all members present.
So that could be, those guidelines could be different in different locales, though.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And it could be the visiting district governor does have the right to find the tail twister. Again, just to add some fun to the meeting.
Let's see. Lion Leanne asks a real good question. If your club does nothing except pass a bucket for a collection, how do you suggest to change this habit?
Start doing some of the activities that we've talked about in the last hour.
So get them used to new activities, get them used to a little more variety.
Absolutely.
Yep. And it really only takes one of these. You gave a lot of great examples, but just one, or having 2 in your back pocket for, like you mentioned, having a longer and a short one. Great ideas, and actually those would sound like a lot more fun and probably even quicker than the traditional passing the bucket, or we have a lion bank that we pass. Any other final comments before we move on? Lion Jackie asked about the meeting notes, and because it had a lot of these details, we wanted to wait until after the webinar to make those available. So those will be on the Lions University course page. Probably within the next half hour, you'll be able to download past District Governor Dave's handouts and notes from all of these ideas this evening. Lion Bobby asks where the money goes that the tail twister collects. And traditionally that's put in the administrative account of a club. Do you have other experiences, Dave, that clubs could consider?
No, generally it's Lions money, so it can go into the admin account, and most clubs do need a little financial assistance in the administration account. So that's where our club and most of the clubs I've been involved with, that's where it goes.
Yeah, I guess there's always a chance that the tail twister or the club could designate a special focus for it. I think I visited a club not too terribly long ago that used the tail twister funds to help with the expenses of their anniversary dinner or something. So it's dedicated. It's not just going into the general admin account.
Yeah. Good idea.
Yep. And let's see. Lion Becky shares that their club does 3 different things a month. I think that is the quantity of tail twister items. So that's a good kind of game plan for members to know what to expect, as well as to help the tail twister with a little bit of focus. So great questions. Thank you all for participating there with the questions pane, and thank you, Lion Dave, for again some really great ideas and creative suggestions to put our tail twisters to work in helping instill that enthusiasm and harmony in our clubs. Definitely, a tail twister can be an integral part of eliminating the long, boring meetings that some of our members tend to complain about, and that cause us to have some retention challenges. So hopefully got some tail twister or future tail twisters now up to the task of that creativity. Couple of administrative items here before we wrap up. Don't forget, if you have not already registered and have a member profile, at members.lionsforum.org. This is the website where your course completions are tracked. If you have not attended the USA-Canada Lions Leadership Forum in 2013, 2014, or 2015, if you have, you'll already have a profile, or if you've pre-registered for the 2015 forum. Otherwise, you can select the Lions University student option and create a profile that way. It is free. All of the education and training that we're providing through Lions University is free for our Lions in North America. So I encourage you to do that so that we can track your completions. I will proudly say that we have over 200 Lions now participating in Lions University courses. However, also because of that, it sometimes may take us an extra few days to get your course completions credited in the member profile area. So be patient there with us as we work on that process and continue to accommodate higher and higher demand for Lions University. I mentioned the discussion board where we'll put a lot of these great ideas for tail twister activities, and the easiest way to reach that is to go to the lionsforum.org website and click the link for the discussion boards. You will need, in order to post there, you'll need to create a standalone username and password. But if you've not already done that, encourage you to continue the conversation for tail twisters and other activities to help your club's success there in those topic areas. We've got 2 webinars coming up next week on February 24th. Next Tuesday, we're back to Tuesdays, will be another master's course on leadership styles, so we're looking forward to that. And then the following Tuesday on March 3rd is our next bachelor's course on club finances. So those are some upcoming courses, and you can register for those from the Lions University calendar page or the individual course pages. And now the all-important quiz. I will try this again. We've had mixed reviews in the past. In the chat pane, I have just put a direct link to take the tail twister quiz, and I think you'll enjoy that. There are 11 true-false questions, so please go and take the quiz so that you can get credit for that. And let's see, Lion Dawn asked a question about the USA-Canada Lions Leadership Forum having tail twister idea books for sale. And she asked if LCI still sells those online. I recall seeing some specific ideas in old proceedings books, but do you know anything about tail twister idea books, Lion Dave?
No, I haven't seen one, Wendy.
We'll do some research there, and maybe if any of you that are online with us or listening to this video can share that resource on the discussion forum. Again, that's another great resource for us to share ideas. I don't believe that LCI directly has those resources, but I'll see what I can find back through my old forum notes and see if there are other resources that may be available. So please do, again, use the discussion forum, and that brings us to the end of this evening's webinar. I would like to thank you again, Lion Dave, for sharing some great ideas with us. Thank you for taking the time to prepare this and share your passion for excellent tail twisting. I would ask, as others are wrapping up, if you would, please, after you've gotten the link to the quiz, or you can always go back to the Lions University website, please exit or leave the webinar. That way we can close down and won't need to exit you on our own. So this brings us to an end. Thank you again, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the next webinar.